live in my hometown.
Okay, great.
And if I could add something, I had one of your ice cream sandwiches.
The switch is really good. Yeah.
Well, I was the one that pounded you so hard down there at the cafeteria
Okay,
a few
yeah,
weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's really good ice cream.
yeah. Thank you.
We interrupted our session because we were all being, leave to go down and get.
This is music to my ears.
But the chairman reined me in.
I almost actually brought ice cream sandwiches, but I didn't think that you'd be able to accept a gift, so I did.
Oh, yeah.
Under $25.
Yeah, the chairman.
Representative.
If you invite me back, I'll bring ice cream sandwiches.
I have said more than once that I'm pretty strict about not accepting food at events.
Yeah.
I do make an ice cream exception.
Maple syrup.
Maple syrup, yeah.
Cheese, yeah.
For the record, we just heard about an exception.
Yeah.
And I haven't ever tried your ice cream, so I will be making a purchase anyway.
Okay, all right, great.
But yeah, we're here this morning. We're going to spend time again today on the two bells, S45 starting out, and then S124. And we're also going to hear the Ag Innovation Board, the AIB, is going to be coming back. So we have all three of those things we're going to be covering this morning. And then we are planning to be back this afternoon, just as a reminder after the floor. As far as S45 goes, we have two witnesses who asked to testify, and Becky Castle is with us, who owns the Sisters of Anarchy ice cream and more, I think.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll let you introduce yourself then.
Great. Well, thanks for having me and allowing me to testify. What I thought I would do is I would just give like a 2 or 3 minute background on our farm and what we do, and then I can talk with you a little bit about some experiences that we've had with neighbors that I think are relevant to the S45 intention. So my husband and I moved back to Vermont in 2011. We had lived out of the state for 2 decades. He's from a dairy farming family in upstate New York. I grew up in Connecticut, but my family is from the Northeast Kingdom. And then I also, yeah. So actually my grandparents graduated from UVM in 1927, which I think is cool. And then my daughter will graduate in 2027. So 100 years after her grandmother graduated. Anyway, so we had been in different industries for the time that we were outside of Vermont. And then when we came back here, we decided that we wanted to get into farming. But my husband was like, I don't want to be a dairy farmer. That's an awful life. I don't know if you're a dairy farmer. Yeah, cows have to be milked twice a day. Anyway, so we decided to do berry farming, but we also knew that we wanted to have value-added products because that's really the best way to be profitable in farming by our estimation. So we purchased a piece of land in Shelburne at 75 acres. We spent about 2 years doing soil health restoration, cover cropping. We did a hydrology study. We dug irrigation ponds. We worked through all of the federal and state agencies, the Agency of Natural Resources, the Army Corps of Engineers, the NRCS, like you name it. Like we worked with them. We had all of the approvals to do everything that we wanted to do. We put our first plants in the ground in 2015. We have 6 different crops. We grow blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, aronia berry, elderberry, and Marquette grapes. We now have about 35,000 row feet of fruit. So that's over 7 miles worth of rows. And last year we produced over 50,000 pounds of fruit. We have 4 different revenue streams. Our ice cream is our best known product. The Sisters of Anarchy ice cream brand. We sell it at about 150 events from May to September. Those are both catered and vended events. We have prepackaged products, so pints, 4-ounce single serves, and the Siswich, which you all are familiar with. We're right now in about 150 retail locations, but actually we just signed up with a new regional distributor. So I think our wholesale will probably double in the next year. And then we also, I think, are the only ice cream that ships our ice cream nationwide. So we've shipped to every state except for Alaska. So if you have any friends in Alaska and want to send ice cream, we'll do it.
Hawaii also.
What was that?
Hawaii also.
Yeah, we've done Hawaii twice. Yeah, so that goes overnight by UPS. Pretty much anything west of the Mississippi, we ship overnight. So ice cream is like our primary value-added product. Then we also sell our frozen fruit to primarily other value-added producers. So we sell all of the berries that Skinny Pancakes uses in their commissary kitchen. Those are from our farm. They buy blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries from us, primarily blueberries. And then we also sell to like the top brewers and distillers in the region. So Stowe Cider, Foam, Fiddlehead, Allagash Brewing, some places in New Jersey. Anyway, that's not like a branded thing, but it's excellent cash flow for us. And we have zero waste. So we freeze 100% of the fruit the day it's picked, because that way we can just store it frozen and use it whenever we need it. And then our other three products are, we just finished building a bakery, an on-site bakery. So we'll sell fruit pies direct to consumer. We're finishing up a year-round retail space on our farm, which should be done like in the next 2 weeks. So there people can buy like scooped ice cream, prepackaged ice cream, pies, frozen fruit, like pretty much anything that we make. And then we have wellness syrups, so like aronia berry and elderberry syrups. And then the last product that we sell is dry ice. So our farm is the only producer of dry ice in the state. The reason that we put that in is because we wanted to be able to freeze our fruit sort of more efficiently. And also it's a key piece of our distribution and shipping. And it's interesting because since we built the dry ice, we did it primarily for our own purpose, but now we have other consumers of it. So like as an example, the Agency of Ag uses our dry ice in the mosquito disease surveillance program. We sell to several distributors and probably 4 or 5 other food producers. And then we also sell dry ice to like women fighting breast cancer. They use it for cold capping to preserve their hair follicles. And then we sell to several biologics firms in Vermont that ship their biologic products, so like custom blood protein and other stuff globally. Yeah, so.
Can you tell us about aronia berry?
Yeah, aronia berry, it's formerly known as chokeberry. They did like a little rebranding. It's considered a super berry. It's very high in tannins. It looks like a blueberry, but it's dark black in color. It's very dry. So like imagine a cherry's dryness and multiply that by 1,000. But it's very good as a flavor element. Raw, it's awful. Yeah.
It makes a great ice cream sandwich. That's what I have.
Oh yeah, the aronia siswich is a really good one. And that has pureed aronia berry in the cookie plus aronia ice cream. Yeah.
Is that a tree or a plant?
I would call it a bush. I mean, it grows pretty high. Like we prune it down to like about 3 feet. And within a couple of months of the season starting, it's back up to be 10 feet tall. So I think it's considered a bush, but it gets to be tree height.
It'll,
Yeah.
we used to have them wild on the farm.
Yeah. It's a native to Vermont, I
Yeah.
think.
Choke
Yeah.
cherries.
Yeah, choke cherries, exactly.
Yeah.
So at this point, we're about a 7-figure business annually, and we built this from nothing. There's a couple of things. I actually listened to the testimony from your committee yesterday, and I had a number of questions and also just points that I wanted to make relevant to yesterday's testimony. So one is, I know there was some language in one of the versions of the bill that talked about like if there's a material change in what a farm is doing. And I would argue that you don't want to put too many restrictions on what a farm evolves into, because if you're farming in Vermont, probably mostly, but in any place, you have to be like nimble and innovative and sort of see where the market takes you. And so like, I don't know, like in 10 years, our farm could be something totally different than what it is now because we're responding to the market demands and what consumers are interested in. So I can't say for sure, like we'll be doing exactly the same thing. And I would just like to make that point that you have to allow farmers to be nimble and innovative and to change what they're doing without too many restrictions on it, as long as they're following the rules that are in place, that are required agricultural practices. And then the second point I wanted to make relative to yesterday's testimony was about the trespassing. I don't fully understand this, but I was talking to Michelle before you all came in, and it sounds like that's mostly around water. And I just think that's a pretty murky area and difficult because like our farm, for example, is next to a golf course. They apply a lot of amendments, probably fertilizers, pesticides. We are conventional and we do use some pesticides and fungicides and, other amendments, very limited use. But what's to say that somebody who lives down the stream from us, like finds that the water quality is not good and then is like, oh, it's Fisher Brothers Farm. Well, how do we know what comes from my farm, what comes from the golf course, what comes from the adjoining neighbors that are all applying stuff to their lawn without actually very much restriction in a, consumer realm. So I think that's a pretty murky area. And I think that the language in the bill needs to be really careful around trespassing as it relates to water.
Representative Nelson.
Yeah. So you follow your RAPs
Yes,
and do you have a on-farm pesticide license?
we do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do as well. So in that license,
Yeah,
of course, you're familiar, we
Sure.
keep
We
our
keep-
product on our land.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that gives us protection. The golf course is supposed to have the same thing. You are right about Susie and Harry homeowner.
Yeah, they can buy anything at Home Depot and
You
put it
ever,
on at any levels,
you ever watch them apply glyphosate on a dandelion growing where they don't want it to be?
No. No, I don't. But anyway, so I just think there's a lot of room for problematic issues with the water trespassing because how do you know where it comes from?
The one version of the bill, maybe all the versions of the bill that we've looked at do make, I think, it pretty clear that the pesticide rules still have to be followed.
Sure.
And Representative Nelson, as an applicator and user, has been a good resource in explaining that, yeah, I mean, you can't today, and I don't think anybody's envisioning allowing a more liberal use of pesticides that would infringe on anybody's private property,
Sure.
and including yours. So if you have a neighbor, golf course or otherwise, who is not following the
Well, what I was saying, though, it's not that I'm concerned about the golf course following the rules. I know that they do because they have a permit. We have a permit. What I'm worried about is the downstream neighbor that is like, oh, the water quality here has some issues. And then they blame it on us, even though like we really use very little of anything that would affect water quality. How do you know it's not the dairy farm or, 5 houses up on the stream or the golf course next door or even the neighbor? That's my concern.
Representative O'Brien?
I was just wondering if your value added stuff qualifies as an accessory on farm business.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Yes.
One thing we haven't talked about is how accessory on farm businesses would fall under right to farm too. Are they ag? Are they something else? Could you potentially bring a suit because they don't have the same protections perhaps?
I think they're concerned. I think the definition pulls them in and gives them that protection. We can ask
So they would
village council.
have exemptions too.
Yeah, we should clarify that, but I think that they would be eligible for this. Yeah,
Yeah.
under current law.
I think that you should definitely include accessory on-farm businesses because most people that are starting a farm, maybe like historical farms that have like a legacy business with customers, et cetera, they wouldn't need that protection. Maybe they don't have like an accessory on-farm business. But if you're starting new or, have a young-ish farm, you have to have an accessory on-farm business to be profitable.
Representative Nelson?
Have you ever had any nuisance issues filed
Yes.
with you?
We have, actually. So I was going to bring that up, which is another thing that was mentioned yesterday in the testimony. I think it was the lawyer from the Vermont Natural Resources Commission.
Yeah.
What is committee?
Government?
Anyway, from that group. And he said at one point, Vermonters aren't litigious. And I thought, that's interesting that you can just make a generalization about 600,000 plus people. My experience is that generally Vermonters aren't litigious, but I think that you have to write the law to protect the farmer from neighbors who are litigious. So as I mentioned, our farm is in Shelburne. The adjacent properties sell for in between $1 million at the low end for a very modest house and 13 million at the high end. So that we probably have 25, maybe 25 properties that abut us. The former owner of the $13 million entity was a developer, and our farm had an agricultural easement on his property, and his land had a septic easement on our property. And this wasn't exactly about the right to farm, but I think it's illustrative of what can happen when you get a really well-heeled neighbor that has basically unlimited funds arguing whether or not you can do something on your farm. So this neighbor wanted us to do a quick claim like release of our agricultural easement so that he could sell his property to a new owner unencumbered. And he sent us an email, which I won't go into all the detail. It was very threatening. And he basically said, I have unlimited funds and I will financially ruin you unless you agree to this. That, like, needless to say, that caused a lot of sleepless nights for us. We ended up sorting it out. But, another issue was that when I called law firms to work with us, which we didn't have a lot of extra funds to hire a lawyer to deal with this, but I called 6 law firms. 5 of them had a conflict of interest and couldn't take our case because he had used all of those law firms and they couldn't work with us, even if it was a different lawyer. So I did ultimately find a lawyer. We made him, because he wanted the easement. We said, fine, we'll do this, but you release our easement, we'll release your easement, you pay the legal fees. But the email from him was like kind of a wake-up call, because every single one of my neighbors has a lot more resources than I do. And they could decimate us. And the guy from VNRC was like, well, it's incumbent on the plaintiff to demonstrate, whatever they're claiming. I would still have to hire a law firm to prove, to work through like a potential suit, even if it was like before trial. So I just think that, maybe most Vermonters aren't litigious, but there certainly are ones that are litigious. And I don't think most farms have like a lot of extraneous funds to hire lawyers and deal with really wealthy neighbors who just want what they want. So.
Interesting that you had challenged finding an attorney who could represent you because he had
worked with
so many
5 different law firms. I've since learned that this person is a bully typically. So yeah.
When you finally did hire a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how much you want to divulge, but it sounds like the bully developer was threatening in a bullying way. Did he have any legal? I mean, could he have successful?
Well, we had an easement on his property and he had an easement on our property. He could have been successful. I think it would have been complicated. And in the court of public opinion, like, I would have made a stink and, tried to make his life miserable because he was bullying us. He's a well-known person who sells a lot of properties. So I think that he ultimately would not have been aggressive as what he said. He said he was going to come onto our property and dig test pits everywhere that he could and disrupt all of our soil. And I mean, he was just like really awful. So yes, he could have legally done all of that, I suppose. I don't think that he would have, because the negative implications for him would have been worse than, anyway, so we worked it out. It was unpleasant. And that could be something related to what we're doing on farming, even if it's part of required agricultural practices. A very wealthy neighbor could just, sue you for like really whatever specious reason, it seems. Yeah.
Do you have, are you friendly, or do you have acquaintanceships with some of your other neighbors?
Yes, we have great relationships with some neighbors. Some neighbors we don't really know because they live on a street that's like on the backside of our property. But other neighbors, like last year, we got a call from a neighbor saying like, we have a bee swarm. And I was like, okay, like, I'll call our beekeeper. We have hives from Champlain Valley apiaries. So I called them and they're like, it could be our hives, it could be other hives, but this neighbor immediately assumed it was because of us. And I'm like, I don't have control over bees. Like, what? So, yeah.
Representative Lipsky.
Yeah. Becky, first of all, we've heard a lot of good testimony on this issue. Your poignant areas, particularly on the nimbleness and diversification
Yeah.
necessity for profitability going forward.
Yeah,
It's a really important thing for us to
yeah,
make sure it's protected. Your nuisance story, it just shocked me back to years ago when I had 3 young children.
Yeah.
And an affluent neighbor. I had a piece of land that I was trying to divest,
hmm
said just what you were told.
hmm
Jed, I know you're cutting logs, you got 3 kids. I
hmm
will tie you up for
yeah,
the rest of your life. You'll never be able to sell this.
yeah,
Take my offer, which was 20 cents on the dollar. And I went to my lawyer and he said, there's no agreement, there's no contract,
yeah,
in real estate, there has to be. He said, all that's true, but when you got a multimillionaire threatening you like this, and you're trying to survive raising your family,
you
you
can't,
gotta make a
Yeah.
decision, but
yeah,
try to strike some. So that nuisance and the sort of looming liability of, in this day and age, because the average price in my town so is about $1 million.
oh, right,
And it
so
goes
it's the
to
same
40
thing,
million,
yeah,
and the average homesteader is just clawing on the survival. So
yeah,
I just thank you for your testimony.
sure,
It's overwhelming.
yeah,
The growth of your farm business is so impressive and
yeah, thank you.
great having you.
That was another piece of the threat, by the way. He said, I know that if I do this, you will never be able to sell your land because I will ensure that there's so many sort of things that you would have to disclose to a potential buyer that you will never sell the land. So that was another part of the threat. We have 100% of our assets, except the home we own, which is not on the land, tied up in our business. It would ruin us.
Representative O'Brien?
Just for clarity, with these easements, you had the right through the easements to
Yeah.
farm on the neighbor's land and they had the
Yes.
right to use separate.
Correct.
land, or-
So
You could release them, right, in sales, or that's what the,
yeah, that's
Got
what, so our easement on their land was an agricultural easement that we could drive tractors through to another field that used to be used for silage. And it went actually right in front. They had actually built the new house they were developing on top of the easement. So, I mean, I don't know who did their title search, but they didn't do a very good job. Anyway, and then it had all been part of a contiguous like 200-acre lot. And then they subdivided it like, 30 years ago into our 75 acres, his 50 acres, like another 15 acres. Anyway, it was like 3 or 4 different lots after the subdivision. And because the land that the developer owned wouldn't perk, they put a septic easement on our property when it was originally subdivided. And then our property had the agricultural easement on his property.
so it was an access.
It was an access thing. I mean, we'd never used it, but like, I guess we could, legally. Yeah. So, and he was also pretty duplicitous in the way he went about this, because at first he contacted us and said, oh, could you sign this quitclaim deed? Never revealing that he had the septic easement on our property. He just wanted us to release our easement, which we're not dumb. Like, we knew he had a septic easement, so we were never going to agree to that. But that's the nature of this particular person. He was just very duplicitous and dishonest.
Are you off Spear Street?
Yes, we're right north of Quiniosca Golf Course. So it's like, if you drive from Gutterson Arena, we're
Yeah.
4 miles down on the left.
Yeah, just past the Wheelock farm. That was the white barn that UVM had right at the corner.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we're like 2
Right.
miles from that.
Yeah, okay. And when I went to UVM, that was all fields.
Yeah.
Do you ever worry about people, you're getting increased traffic
Mhm.
at your place? Do you ever worry about people complaining about your on-farm accessory business?
100%. I mean, that has happened a little bit. So we have like, during COVID, we started having like 1 time or 2 times a week during COVID, because we had enough space that people could socially distance. We'd have like live music and a food truck, and it was very popular because there was really nothing else for people to do. And we would get, maybe 150 people a night, but we have a big field and we would try to end things by 8 o'clock. Now we do that every Friday for 10 weeks in the summer. And we have some close, adjacent neighbors that do complain a little bit to the town, and the town is like, hey, they can do this. Like, it's not a problem. As we get bigger and I think people like farms when they're like cute and picturesque and, very idyllic. But then as soon as you start to become commercially successful and you build more buildings and have two, 40-foot containers for storage and other trailers around and equipment that won't fit in your barn, all of a sudden people don't like how it looks. But it's like, that's what we need to grow. And we don't have unlimited funds to build more buildings. So yes, but we also have a lot of community goodwill. So we probably welcome at least, I don't know, 10,000 people to our farm in the summer over, the course of the entire summer. So we have goodwill, but, there is like the occasional complaint about like noise or the number of cars. But like, to me, that's a sign of awesomeness.
Let's get one more question in, and then we should, I think we have another witness who's waiting in the Zoom room possibly.
So the S45, 8-10 years ago, perhaps it was started out as maybe more for the dairy farmers, but it's morphed into more of this, as you said, being nimble
Yeah.
and be able to change what you do to keep your land in agriculture. And, great testimony you gave today, because it's exactly how I've been talking about it, is allowing the changes as agriculture changes in Vermont.
Yep.
And thank you for being part of the $5.4 billion that dairy brings to the state of Vermont.
Yeah. I have to make a plug also for Kingdom Creamery. They provide our mix. They're awesome. Yeah.
The Michon family.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you both, or all of everybody.
You're welcome to stay if you want to hear the next bit of testimony, but if you need to get back to work.
I think I need to get back to work, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Related to John?
No, it's funny though. So he overlapped with me at Middlebury.
Yeah.
And we didn't know each other, but everybody would say, oh, is John your brother? And so we just both independently decided we would claim each other, even though we didn't know each other. Yeah, but I know John. So
Yeah.
we're not related, but we sort of like jokingly.
I covered his blind side in football.
Oh,
in
nice.
high school.
So you are from the Northeast?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. All right.
Thank you. Alex, can you hear us?
You did. Gotta use your pad of paper.
I think he's unmuting. He's moving. Oh.
Yeah, I need to write one that just says muted.
Yeah, I think yes. I think we see you struggling to unmute. We can't hear you. You can hear us, yeah.
Got it.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. Good morning.
Perfect. Morning.
Morning.
Thanks for joining us, Alex. If you want to just introduce yourself, I think, and you may have heard some of the testimony we're taking on S45. So thank you for reaching out and offering to give us your testimony. If you just want to introduce yourself, tell us where you are and I guess what you do, and share any thoughts that you have.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Thibault. I'm a 5th-generation dairy farmer in Colchester. We've been here for almost 108 years, so it's quite a long stretch of time. We milk about 100 cows. We have about 200 head total, and we farm right around 400 acres, give or take. We have primarily all river bottom ground, with the exception of like maybe 25 to 30 acres that doesn't get wet, especially the last few years. Yeah. In Colchester, we have a lot of them around us, and
Alex, sorry,
the threat of the
we're having a little trouble hearing you.
Say that
and I
again?
wonder, we're having a little trouble with your audio. I'm maybe going to suggest you turn off your video. Try that.
Rose.
Oh, I don't know how to do that. I gotta get back to the good. Is that better? Can you hear me?
That is
We can
a
hear.
little bit better.
There we
Can
go.
you hear me though or no?
Yeah, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's good.
Do you want me to start from the beginning or could you hear any of it?
Yeah, we did hear your introduction and about the farm and the history.
Okay. So with that being said, farming in Colchester, we have a lot of encroaching development around us, and yeah, I mean, it's part of the changing landscape in the state, and in a good way and in a bad way. So yeah, I'd like to get into the meat of my testimony and really start talking about S45 and on behalf of the farming industry and the greater community. I think this is a very important bill to be looked at, and yeah. So as I stated, we've been farming in the town of Colchester since 1917 when my great grandfather bought the farm. 108 years of integrity and adapting to the changes that need to be made in farming to remain sustainable on the business level and on the aspect of the environment as well. Without implementing the required agricultural practices, we wouldn't be able to continue what we, especially in this area. And leaving an unhealthy environment would lead us to not be successful at all. It wouldn't work for us and for the community. The ag industry is really the backbone of our state's economy, and we've seen a great deal of change through the years. And then, like I stated earlier, one of those changes is being the encroachment of residential and commercial development, especially in the Chittenden County area. There's not a whole lot of farms left around here, and we do understand the need for the housing, but that also opens the door to future complaints, disputes, and definitely potentially a lawsuit from neighbors around that don't necessarily understand farming or what we do. Right now, currently, we have really, really good neighbors. Honestly, we can't say anything bad about them. We've never had a complaint. Being that the farm is 1,000 feet away at the most from a dozen houses, and then if you go out to a 1 mile radius, you're talking 200 to 300 houses. And then if you even want to go beyond that and go to a 5 mile radius, you're talking thousands of houses. So it's very, very close to a residential area. And actually, we had something different in the last month or two. So I received a message on our farm's Facebook page from a potential home buyer, and they were looking for a statement from us. And I'm going to share with you what that message says. Hello, we are thinking of buying a townhouse in the development next to your farm. We are super in support of farms, but also have some severe allergies and are a little worried about the smell of the slurry and the cows. Is there anything you can share with us about how the slurry is maintained to reduce odor, or if the odors are strong throughout the neighborhood? And my immediate thought was, oh my God, here we go. So we had to make a response and be very professional about it, because we do care about our neighbors and what they think of our operation. So I asked them to, in just trying to be vague about what I said. I told them to ask the surrounding neighbors of their opinions, and I also encouraged them to buy the home because it is such a great area, and the people around are very, very friendly and it's safe. So that was just one of our experiences with the pertaining to this bill and how it could really help in the future. On our farm, we are in full compliance with all the RAPs, the required agricultural practices. And recently we put in a new manure, wastewater, and runoff collection system, and we keep all of our nutrient management plan records as well. So like I said, we feel that some sort of blanket protection would not only benefit the farm, but it would also mitigate future financial turmoil that could put not just us out of business. I mean, there's other situations that could put somebody else out of business as well. And we really need the support of our legislators to take that big target off our back. Farmers are really exhausted, dealing with these issues, and especially the older generation. And the next generation of farmers are going to be in a gloomy situation if we don't do something. But as farmers, we always prevail, no matter what. We're some of the most powerful people in the world, and really, we're not looking for sympathy, but we just need you guys to put yourself in our shoes and have you guys got to see our way of life. And you guys see it as if we're trying to hurt people. We're not. We're trying to feed the world. We're trying to feed the community, the state, and ultimately the world needs our farmers and our farms. We need that. We need that nice working landscape, especially in the state of Vermont. So yeah, we need big support from all of our legislators, especially for the next generation that's looking to take over. And I thank you guys for your time and listening to what I have to say. And this is my first time doing this, so I'm a little bit, this is new for me. But I'm hoping for a positive outcome for everybody is what we're really looking for. It's not a one-sided issue. It's how do we work with everybody, and we got to keep everybody happy. So that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to play one side or the other side. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Alex, thank you. And thank you for testifying for the first time. I know that isn't always easy to do, and I'm sure you're busy with work too. So thanks for making some time today. Do you have time for a few questions from committee members?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Representative Morgan.
You're down on Mallett's Bay Avenue?
That's correct.
Yeah, pretty close to Winooski then.
Very close to Winooski. We're like maybe a mile at the most.
Yeah, and Mallett's Bay Creek goes through your property, doesn't it?
Sutherland Brook goes through our property.
Oh, okay.
And that Sutherland Brook starts way up towards Essex. So we take a lot of water
Yes.
from all those commercial developments up through Essex.
Yeah.
Even down into Colchester, Severance Corners.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with you.
We take a tremendous amount of water.
Thank you.
Yes, it's like it's very, very populated.
Yes.
Representative Nelson.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, Alex, and sharing with us about the homeowner and encourage him to come to your neighborhood. Does Kelly View do your harvesting or have they in the past?
No, they don't. They used to do the Fitzgerald farm next
That's right.
door. There was another farm, yeah, right next door.
Yeah.
We do our own harvesting. We do all of our own crop work.
Okay. Have you ever,
But
I
yes,
know-
they did used to.
I know talking to Larry, he came across a homeless encampment once on their farm. Have you ever run into that on your farm?
Not yet, but they are now currently down in the Intervale. A lot of them. There's a lot of them down there. We haven't had that problem yet. I can't imagine we will, but I wouldn't be surprised in the coming years.
Representative O'Brien?
Alex, just for some context, I wondered, I see it looks like you shipped to DFA. Does that go to the St. Albans co-op?
We do ship to DFA. I'm not going to say yes and no because I think every now and then maybe they might send a load up there, but primarily the milk goes south to Massachusetts.
To Franklin, like Representative Nelson's milk?
Yeah, somewhere's around there. I could give you a specific answer, but I'd have to contact the rep.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
I just
somewhere's
wondered
around.
how many cows you milk and how many acres you crop in Colchester there.
So we milk between 80 and as many as 118. So it varies from month to month, year to year, as far as where we're at. But we have about 200 head total with raising our replacements, and then we crop. We own 220 acres, and we rent an additional 200 acres, roughly. We do about 300 acres in grass and a little less than 300 acres in grass, and then about 120 to 130 acres of corn.
Yep, thank you.
Cows milking
Roughly.
well, Alex?
Cows milk pretty well right now. We were very lucky. We put up some really good haylage this year, and the corn silage was pretty good. But there's a lot of I hear of a lot of farms that the haylage didn't do very well. But I'm thinking in about 2 weeks here we're going to be dropping a mower and starting early, so that helps the proteins a lot.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
I'm telling you, 2 weeks we're cutting hay. We'll cut our hay before we put the corn in the ground.
For you.
Representative Morgan?
Are you diversified at all, or are you strictly dairy?
We aren't. I'll say that we have 6 apartments on the side that help make a little bit more income. They're located right across the road from the farm, which is really nice. I've played around with some goats and some sheep before, but that market's almost just like milking cows. It's up and down, and if you don't have a niche market for it, you could do well or you could do really bad. But as far as down the road, I could see maybe diversifying into some more beef, depending on how the market goes. Maybe a farm stand. It's a really good area for a farm stand.
Yes, you're so close to a big population that would be viable.
Exactly. Maybe even bottling some milk. Who knows? Right now, the game plan is to just stay focused and stay on our feet and do the best we can do with what we have right now, and see what the markets are going to do. So just kind of playing it safe more than anything.
Good, thank you.
Alex, just getting back for a moment before we let you go to the bill. When you think about the possibility of a neighbor or somebody in the neighborhood getting upset and potentially suing, what do you worry about? What what are the kinds of things that you think somebody could, you know, given what the kind of farming that you do or that you might do in the future, that somebody could get upset about and take you to court?
I think the issues would probably have to be like the smell or the dust coming from the property. Maybe the, blocking up the road, the traffic, the potential of an accident, because this is a busy road. I mean, and not so much that it would be our fault, but the cars that just don't slow down when they see the farm equipment, and they just have to pass you. And most of our fields are right here around the farm. So we're usually out of the driveway, and then within like 800 feet or 1,000 feet, we're pulling back into a field. So it's very quick. But yeah, just, little things like that, or, and it has happened where we've had a cow get out and get hit by a car. So, I mean, yes, that would probably be our fault, but times have changed, and that was 20 years ago. Somebody might come and try to take everything you have because of something that you did or potentially could have done. But that's just a whole different type of lawsuit. I mean, as far as nuisance, dust would be one of them. Smell. I mean, the things that people can come up with now, I can't even think of them in my head. There's so many variables that could come into effect. They could say that you spread manure too close to their house.
Let's take one more question. Representative O'Brien.
Quickly, are you the last dairy farm in Colchester?
I believe we're the last conventional dairy farm in Colchester. I believe there's one small organic farm on the other side of town that milks like 20 cows. But as far as a commercial dairy, yep, we are the last one standing in Colchester.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Alex, thank you again for joining us and sharing your perspective. Very helpful.
Yes, I'm very glad I got to speak, and I thank the Farm Bureau for reaching out to me to asking me to speak, and this is very important for us.
All right. And thanks for your flexibility and being persistent too with finding a time.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's very hard time of the year to find time, and we made it work this morning.
Good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. See ya.
Does Madison's have a big farm store?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Lots of, all kinds of vegetation.
If anybody has any thoughts, we can take a short break. We've got Steve Collier is in at 10. He's